Welcome. I observed recently the intense activity of mind. And it was almost the first time that I could sense the conditioning of my mind. And how during stress or an intense situation or event, almost as if the mind did its favorite thing, its favorite thought, favorite image, feeling, conjure the feeling. For myself, there was lots of thoughts about an imagined reality, an imagined future, often as well. And I can sense as I was walking, there was anxiety happening, anxious energy around thoughts, anxiousness felt within the body. And I kept losing myself in imagined scenarios about perhaps an alternative reality where there was a different life situation, different house, or this and that. Imagine situations of helping others. That's a favourite thing the mind likes to do. I won't go too much into the meaning of that, but perhaps in some way it was just trying to avoid pain. And I sense that when the mind is avoiding pain, it will almost go to the path of least resistance, whatever is conditioned there. So for me, it was daydreams about this and that, and I was constantly caught up in it. I was aware of this happening, and still yet it took me under, and then I'd come out and I'd still have enough awareness not to judge myself being lost, but just to be aware of that, to be aware of loss of attention. So I'd come out of a sort of daydream, and then as I was walking I'd be, it happened again, okay. Sometimes there's not much that can be done. In my situation there was a deep sense of anxiety, and I understood that until that receded, that this will be perhaps ongoing. Perhaps I shortened the length of time, maybe I was in the daydreams, or it's hard to know, but so it was just a note about the mind going to its favorite thought or favorite train of thoughts, favorite feelings. And often it may not serve us. It may just be the mind wanting to do what the mind wants to do, but it may not And I guess with this observation or understanding, perhaps over time there would be more gaps. Say, for example, there was another intense situation, or perhaps just lots of mind activity happening. Perhaps now there'll be more awareness of, okay. You can almost sense the state of mind, like you look at the ocean or sea, you can see, you can see the serenity, the calm, or you can see, there's some waves. And there's more of an awareness without being caught inside of it. Because quite often we love it, life or experienced is happening within mind for most people, going from thought to thought. Maybe there's very brief glimpses of stillness, sitting down in a chair after a busy morning, just a few moments before a sip of coffee. But you can imagine for most there's an imagined reality, thought, a thought about perception, thought about people you're going to see, thoughts about life situation you're in, thoughts about that person shouldn't have done that, should have said this, shouldn't have said that. Waves of thoughts, but now there's a slight break in the clouds. There's some sunlight coming in, and it's illuminating patterns, conditions, mental structures. It's illuminating when we are caught in mind, and the activity of going from awareness to thought, then out of thought to awareness. And so, although for most of us, this is not an overnight thing where there's only the serene awareness, but you can sense a thinning of the cloud. Some things are becoming transparent, such as the activity of mind being caught. There may be an awareness of that, almost like a schematic, almost. Sort of being inside and going through the maze and going from thought and then trying to get yourself out of thought and then getting a better thought, more comfortable thought, and then jumping out for 10 minutes of meditation. I must do my meditation for 10 minutes, but now it's the overall, it's all happening in awareness. Even the 10 minutes of meditation is happening in the awareness. And perhaps in the intensity of an event or situation, it can almost force you to surrender, force you to step out of it. And even though you're being caught, it forces some awareness in, even just enough for you to know, I'm being caught, I'm reacting right now, and you may not be able to cut that immediately, but there might be awareness of it, and perhaps, I'm sure it's going to assist in that way. It may shorten or lessen the intensity of that experience. But with this is almost a cleaning up process happening, a dissolving, a cleansing. It's all happening in the light of awareness. There's no you doing the cleansing or fixing, cleaning up, becoming more spiritual, becoming more present. It is all happening just in the light of being aware, just by observing, just by saying, okay, the next moment, let's take a moment of being present, and there you are. And that moment may last a few seconds or minutes or maybe hours. Perhaps for some days or weeks. A thought is not needed. And now there is a choice. And that choice becomes more clear as practice deepens, as awareness deepens. It's not the normal reality of dealing with me and my thoughts. Now, perhaps there's a reality of, or moments in a day or week of, do I need to think about this? And perhaps quite often the answer may be no. So let's take a moment of being present now. And in this moment you may be aware of the body perhaps being tense, the body being relaxed. You may notice, I can't be present now, the mind is too active. Okay, let's step one step back and just watch the active mind go around. If your body's feeling tense, just, okay, let's just gently be aware of the tension. Where is the tension happening? And just place your awareness there. If you are sat in a chair, perhaps, become aware of the support, the stability of the soles of your feet on the ground, on the floor. Perhaps notice your breath becoming more deeper, more easy, more of a flow. Maybe there's a sense of openness or lightness without any doing. There's no trying to be relaxed, trying to be open or light. No, just allowing it to be, allowing this moment to be as it is. So we remain with the inner purpose, and the passage we are reading, beginning with today, is titled A Dialogue on Inner Purpose. The following dialogue condenses numerous conversations I have had with people who were looking for their true life purpose. Something is true when it resonates with and expresses your innermost being, when it is in alignment with your inner purpose. This is why I am directing their attention to their inner and primary purpose first. I don't know exactly what it is, but I want some change in my life. I want expansion. I want to be doing something meaningful, and yes, I want prosperity and the freedom that comes with it. I want to do something significant, something that makes a difference in the world. But if you asked me what exactly I want, I would have to say that I don't know. Can you help me find my life purpose? Your purpose is to sit here and talk to me, because that's where you are and that's what you are doing, until you get up and do something else. Then that becomes your purpose. So my purpose is to sit in my office for the next 30 years until I retire or get laid off. You are not in your office now, so that's not your purpose. When you do sit in your office and do whatever you do, then that is your purpose. Not for the next 30 years, but for now. I think there is some misunderstanding here. For you, purpose means what you are doing now. For me, it means having an overall aim in life, something big and significant that gives meaning to what I do, something that makes a difference. Shuffling papers in the office is not it. I know that. As long as you are unaware of being, you will seek meaning only within the dimension of doing and of future, that is to say, the dimension of time. And whatever meaning or fulfillment you find will dissolve or turn out to have been a deception. Invariably, it will be destroyed by time. Any meaning we find on that level is true only relatively and temporarily. For example, if caring for your children gives meaning to your life, what happens to that meaning when they don't need you and perhaps don't even listen to you anymore? If helping others gives meaning to your life, you depend on others being worse off than yourself, so that your life can continue to be meaningful and you can feel good about yourself. If the desire to excel, win, or succeed at this, or that activity provides you with meaning, what if you never win, or your winning streak comes to an end one day? as it will. You would then have to look to your imagination or memories, a very unsatisfactory place to bring some meaning into your life. Making it in whatever field is only meaningful as long as there are thousands or millions of others who don't make it. So you need other human beings to fail so that your life can have meaning. I am not saying here that helping others, caring for your children, or striving for excellence in whatever field are not worthwhile things to do. For many people, they are in an important part of their outer purpose, but outer purpose alone is always relative, unstable, and impermanent. This does not mean that you should not be engaged in those activities. It means you should connect them to your inner purpose, primary purpose, so that a deeper meaning flows into what you do. Without living in alignment with your primary purpose, whatever purpose you come up with, even if it is to create heaven on earth, will be of the ego or become destroyed by time. Sooner or later, it will lead to suffering. If you ignore your inner purpose, no matter what you do, even if it looks spiritual, the ego will creep into how you do it, and so the means will corrupt the end. The common saying, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions," points to this truth. In other words, not your aims or your actions are primary, but the state of consciousness out of which they come. Fulfilling your primary purpose is laying the foundation for a new reality, a new earth. Once that foundation is there, your external purpose becomes charged with spiritual power, because your aims and intentions will be one with the evolutionary impulse of the universe. The separation of thinking and awareness, which lies at the core of your primary purpose, happens through the negation of time. We are not speaking here, of course, of the use of time for practical purposes, such as making an appointment or planning a trip. We are not speaking of clock time, but of psychological time, which is the mind's deep-seated habit of seeking the fullness of life in the future where it cannot be found, and ignoring the only point of access to it, the present moment. When you look upon what you do or where you are as the main purpose of your life, you negate time. And this is enormously empowering. The negation of time in what you do also provides the link between your inner and outer purposes, between being and doing. When you negate time, you negate the ego. Whatever you do, you will be doing extraordinarily well, because the doing itself becomes the focal point of your attention. Your doing then becomes a channel through which consciousness enters this world. This means there is quality in what you do, even in the most simple actions, like turning the pages in the phone book, or walking across the room. The main purpose for turning the pages is to turn the pages. The secondary purpose is to find a phone number. The main purpose for walking across the room is to walk across the room. The secondary purpose is to pick up a book at the other end, and the moment you pick up the book, that becomes your main purpose. You may remember the paradox of time we mentioned earlier. Whatever you do takes time, and yet it is always now. So while your inner purpose is to negate time, your outer purpose necessarily involves future, and so could not exist without time. But it is always secondary. Whenever you become anxious or stressed, outer purpose has taken over, and you lost sight of your inner purpose. You have forgotten that your state of consciousness is primary, all else secondary. Would living like this not stop me from looking to achieve something great? My fear is that I will remain stuck with doing little things for the rest of my life, things that are of no consequence. I'm afraid of never rising above mediocrity, never daring to achieve anything great, not fulfilling my potential. The great arises out of small things that are honored and cared for. Everybody's life really consists of small things. Greatness is a mental abstraction and a favorite fantasy of the ego. The paradox is that the foundation of greatness is honoring the small things of the present moment instead of pursuing the idea of greatness. The present moment is always small in the sense that it is always simple, but concealed within it lies the greatest power. Like the atom, it is one of the smallest things, yet contains enormous power. Only when you align yourself with the present moment do you have access to that power. Or it may be true to say that it then has access to you, and through you to this world. Jesus was referring to this power when he said, "It is not I, but the Father within me who does the work." And I can of my own self do nothing. Anxiety, stress, and negativity cut you off from that power. The illusion that you are separate from the power that runs the universe returns. You feel yourself to be alone again, struggling against something or trying to achieve this or that. But why did anxiety, stress, or negativity arise? Because you turned away from the present moment. And why did you do that? You thought something else was more important. You forgot your main purpose. One small error, one misperception creates a world of suffering. Through the present moment, you have access to the power of life itself, that which has traditionally been called God. As soon as you turn away from it, God ceases to be a reality in your life, and all you are left with is the mental concept of God, which some people believe in and others deny. Even belief in God is only a poor substitute for the living reality of God manifesting every moment of your life. Would complete harmony with the present moment not imply the cessation of all movement? Doesn't the existence of any goal imply that there is a temporary disruption in that harmony with the present moment, and perhaps a re-establishment of harmony at a higher or more complex level once the goal has been attained? I imagined that the sapling that pushes its way through the soil can't be in total harmony with the present moment either, because it has a goal. It wants to become a big tree. Maybe once it has reached maturity, it will live in harmony with the present moment. The sapling doesn't want anything because it is at one with the totality, and the totality acts through it. Look at the lilies of the field, how they grow, said Jesus. They toil not, neither do they spin. Yet even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. We could say that the totality, life, wants the sapling to become a tree, but the sapling doesn't see itself as separate from life, and so wants nothing for itself. It is one with what life wants. That's why it isn't worried or stressed. And if it has to die prematurely, it dies with ease. It is as surrendered in death as it is in life. It senses, no matter how obscurely, its rootedness in being, the formless and eternal one life. Like the Taoist sages of ancient China, Jesus likes to draw our attention to nature because he sees a power at work in it that humans have lost touch with. It is the creative power of the universe. Jesus goes on to say that if God clothes simple flowers in such beauty, how much more will God clothe you? That is to say, that while nature is a beautiful expression of the evolutionary impulse of the universe, when humans become aligned with the intelligence that underlies it, they will express that same impulse on a higher, more wondrous level. So to be true to life by being true to your inner purpose. As you become present and thereby total in what you do, your actions become charged with spiritual power. At first, there may be no noticeable change in what you do, only the how changes. Your primary purpose is now to enable consciousness to flow into what you do. The secondary purpose is whatever you want to achieve through the doing. Whereas the notion of purpose before was always associated with future, there is now a deeper purpose that can only be found in the present through the denial of time. When you meet with people at work or wherever it may be, give them your fullest attention. You are no longer their primary. You are no longer there primarily as a person, but as a field of awareness, of alert presence. The original reason for interacting with the other person, buying or selling something, requesting or giving information, and so on, now becomes secondary. The field of awareness that arises between you becomes the primary purpose for the interaction. That space of awareness becomes more important than what you may be talking about, more important than physical or thought objects. The human being becomes more important than the things of this world. It does not mean you neglect whatever needs to be done on a practical level. In fact, the doing unfolds not only more easily, but more powerfully when the dimension of being is acknowledged and so becomes primary. The arising of that unifying field of awareness between human beings is the most essential factor in relationships on the new earth. Is the notion of success just an egoic illusion? How do we measure true success? So this dialogue appears to be quite a long passage, so perhaps it's good to break it up into two parts. So I will pause on this question that has been posed before we move on to the answer, and perhaps at the end of the next episode's reading we can summarize and go over this dialogue and highlight, as it feels as if it's a very relatable passage, and I'm sure for most of us there's an importance here of our own inner purpose, and as it's a longer passage in length, it might be, especially for myself, it'd be good to just go over and, as I've done in the past, just see what sentences or words or passages stand out to be gone over once again. So we'll pause at this point. Thank you for joining me for this episode, I wish you well, and I will see you very soon. Take care.